Would you help a stranger if you had nothing left to give? That's exactly what Liam, a struggling single dad from a small Midwest town, did one quiet morning on his way to a job interview he could barely afford to miss. He saw an older woman battling with a broken fence post on the edge of a muddy field. Her hands were trembling and no one else stopped. Without a second thought, Liam rolled up his sleeves and helped, not knowing that one small act of kindness would crack open a secret so big, it would change his family's future forever. Because the woman wasn't just a farmer. She was the quiet force behind nearly every field in the valley. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Liam Carver had nothing but bills in his glove box and a cracked photo of his daughter in his dashboard. Every morning, he left their tiny rented trailer and hoped today would be different. A job interview in Pine Hollow might be his last shot. He had just enough gas to get there. Just enough hope to fake a smile. On the winding back road, his eyes caught something unusual. An elderly woman alone by a barbed wire fence, struggling to hammer a splintered post into soggy earth. Her hands trembled, mud splashed up her boots, and not a soul had stopped. Liam pulled over without hesitation. "Need a hand, ma'am?" he asked, already rolling up his sleeves. She looked at him, wary at first, but then stepped back with a grateful nod. He had no idea who she was. No clue what she owned. But for Liam, helping wasn't about gain. It was about doing the right thing. Even when you're running on empty. The woman introduced herself as Etta Mayfield. Her voice rough like weathered bark. She didn't speak much, but her eyes noticed everything, especially the frayed cuffs on Liam's sleeves and the way he winced with each swing of the hammer. "You fix fences often?" she asked, watching him reset the post with surprising care. Liam chuckled. "Used to do this with my old man before." Well, before everything fell apart. Etta didn't press. She simply handed him the next nail. Something about her silence was calming, like she was letting him carry more than just wood. After 20 minutes, the fence stood tall again. Etta looked at it, then at Liam. "Most folks just drive by," she muttered. "You didn't." Liam wiped sweat from his brow and smiled. "Wouldn't feel right." She offered no thanks, just a quiet nod and one sentence that stuck. "Stop by the porch if you're ever nearby." Liam made it to the interview. Barely on time, shoes still damp with mud. The office smelled like printer toner and judgment. A man behind a desk skimmed his tattered resume and raised an eyebrow at Liam's gaps in employment. "Why'd you leave your last job?" he asked. Liam hesitated. "Single dad. My daughter needed more than my hours could give." The man gave a tight smile and set the paper aside. It didn't matter how hard Liam tried. The moment they saw his worn clothes and desperate eyes, the decision was made. "We'll be in touch," the man said flatly. Liam nodded, thanked him anyway, and walked out into the afternoon sun. On the drive home, the rejection stung, but the memory of Etta's fence, her quiet eyes, and that odd invitation lingered in his mind. Something about her felt unfinished. As if that fence wasn't the only thing needing repair. The next morning, Liam passed the same stretch of road. He slowed near Etta's land, not out of hope but habit. To his surprise, she was sitting on her porch, sipping from a chipped mug like she'd been waiting for him. She raised her hand slightly, not quite a wave. Liam hesitated, then parked and walked over. "Didn't expect to see you," he said. "Didn't expect you to come," she replied, then scooted over on the bench. They didn't talk much. She poured him coffee that tasted like smoke and wind. "You work?" she asked. "Trying to," he answered. She nodded slowly. "Well, I've got fence lines, barns. A garden too stubborn to grow. You want hours, I've got them. Not charity, just hands meeting needs. Liam blinked. It wasn't much, but it was honest. And more than anyone else had offered in months. I'll show up early, he said. Etta just nodded. The days that followed were stitched together by sweat, wood, and silence. Liam showed up every morning, never asked what she paid, and worked until the sun dipped low behind the hills. Etta never hovered, but she always noticed. When he tightened the gate hinge she hadn't asked him to fix, she watched from the kitchen window. When he brought scraps from his own lunch to feed her barn cat, she quietly added extra apples to his take-home basket. Liam didn't push for conversation, but small pieces of her story came out. Widowed young. No children. Land passed down through generations. Too much for one old woman, too valuable for the wrong buyer, she once said. Liam didn't know what that meant yet. But he began to feel something unexpected out there among the rows. Peace. It wasn't just the work. It was that someone finally needed him again, and trusted him to carry what mattered. One afternoon, Liam brought his daughter, Mia, along. The school had an in-service day, and he couldn't afford a sitter. Mia, barely 8, stepped shyly out of the truck, her sneakers sinking into the soft soil. Etta raised an eyebrow but said nothing. As Liam returned to clearing brush, Mia wandered the edge of the field, collecting wildflowers and peeking into the barn. She found a kitten nestled in straw and giggled, the first real sound of joy Liam had heard from her in weeks. Etta emerged later with lemonade and 2 mismatched mugs. She poured for Mia first, quietly studying her. "Curious one," she said, watching the girl cradle the kitten. "She's gentle," Liam replied, slightly embarrassed. Etta didn't smile, but her eyes softened. That evening when they left, Mia waved goodbye, and Etta waved back. It was a small gesture, but something had shifted. The land had begun to accept them. At the end of the week, Liam tried to hand back the modest cash Etta gave him. "You've already done too much," he said. Etta pushed it back toward him with a grunt. "You earned it. And I hate begging, so don't make me." Then she added, "If you're still interested, I could use longer help." Liam blinked. "Like a job?" She shrugged. "Like work. Consistent. You help me. I don't go under. You get paid." There were no contracts, no signatures, just a firm handshake and a shared understanding. It wasn't about legalities. It was about trust. For Liam it was more than money. It was rhythm. A reason to set his alarm. Place where Mia could breathe freely. And for Etta, it was something she hadn't admitted aloud. Companionship in work, and a man who didn't take shortcuts. Together they were repairing more than fences. They were stitching dignity into each other's days. Soon folks in town began to notice. Etta Mayfield's place, long seen as wild, forgotten land, was looking cleaner, freighter, livable. When Liam walked into the feed store to pick up fencing wire, old-timers paused mid-conversation. "Mayfield hired you?" one asked. Liam nodded. "You sure she's not working you for nothing?" Another chuckled. Liam smiled politely but said nothing. Etta's reputation was complicated. Some said she was mean, others said she was a recluse. But no one really knew her. What they did know was this. Whoever worked her land stayed away after a few days. Until Liam. Whispers followed him out the door. Curiosity was stirring. And in a town where word traveled faster than weather, change didn't go unnoticed. Liam didn't care. He wasn't chasing approval, just stability. And maybe, just maybe, something deeper was unfolding under the radar. The beginning of respect where none had lived before. Until then, Liam had only seen the porch and the barn. But one rainy morning, Etta waved him inside. "Storm will ruin your tools. Bring them in." Inside was like walking into another time. Oil lamps, books stacked on creaky shelves, faded photos on the mantel. Smelled like cedar and age. Mia followed close, wide-eyed. Etta poured tea and handed it over without a word. Then she sat by the window and stared into the rain. "You keep this up," she muttered. "You'll know more about this land than my daddy ever did." Liam chuckled. "That a compliment?" Etta didn't answer, but her silence held warmth. Mia found a dusty piano in the corner and pressed a key. It rang sharp and out of tune. "You play?" Etta asked. "A little," Mia whispered. That night, the girl played a broken lullaby while two grown souls listened in stillness. For a moment time softened. Weeks passed. The garden bloomed. The barn stood taller. One morning, Etta's old tractor refused to start. Liam crawled under the engine, grease on his hands, rain drizzling down. He'd worked on plenty of machines before, but this one was stubborn. Etta stood nearby, arms crossed. "If you can fix this," she muttered, "I'll start believing you're not just lucky." Liam grinned. Challenge accepted. An hour later, the engine coughed, sputtered, and roared to life. Etta blinked, then barked a dry laugh. "Well, I'll be." She didn't say thank you, but her next word said everything. "Come by Sunday. Bring the girl. Dinner's on me." It wasn't just an invitation, it was permission. For Liam, whose life had felt like a closed door for so long, that simple offer was more than a meal. It was a seat at someone's table. And in this town, that meant you belonged. Liam and Mia arrived just before sunset. The sky was glowing amber, and the scent of baked cornbread drifted from Etta's kitchen window. It was the first time Liam had seen her out of work clothes. She wore a simple blue dress and her hair braided back. Mia brought a small bouquet of wildflowers, which Etta accepted without a word but placed carefully in a mason jar on the table. Dinner was quiet at first. Then Etta began telling stories. Not about herself but about the land. "This valley once belonged to my grandfather. All of it. He gave pieces to neighbors when times were hard." Liam listened closely. Mia picked at her food politely, nodding as if she understood the weight behind the words. Etta looked across the table. "He always said land was only as good as the people working it." Liam, stunned, realized this meal wasn't about food. It was about trust. That week, Liam overheard something at the diner. A sudden thunderstorm rolled through one late afternoon, fierce and unrelenting. Liam was halfway through fixing the east fence line when lightning cracked overhead. "Get in the barn!" Etta shouted from the porch. Mia clung to her side, eyes wide. Rain poured like a river, drenching Liam before he reached shelter. Inside the barn they huddled together, Liam, Etta, Mia, and the cat, while the storm roared. As the wind howled, Etta handed him a blanket and a flask. "You always throw yourself into storms?" she asked. Liam smirked. "Only when the fence matters." Etta gave a rare, soft laugh. That night they stayed in the barn, telling stories, sharing leftover cornbread, and watching lightning dance behind the slats. In that small, dim space, the three of them found something rare: comfort in chaos. Not every storm leaves damage. Some reveal just how strong a shelter you've built together. One crisp morning, Etta walked Liam down a narrow trail behind the orchard. The path opened to a quiet field, long overgrown but rich with sun. "This one's not on the map," she said. Liam tilted his head. "Yours?" She nodded. "Used to be my uncle's. No one's touched it in years. I want you to have it, not to own, not yet, but to work. To grow something that's yours." Liam was speechless. I couldn't. She cut him off gently. You already are. I just want you to put your name on what you're already fixing. That field, for all its silence, sang louder than anything Liam had heard in years. He knelt, ran his fingers through the soil, and felt something solid beneath the surface. Not just earth but roots. Future. Etta wasn't just giving him land. She was giving him a chance to belong. That night, Mia sat at the kitchen table and wrote something in colorful crayon. She folded it carefully and handed it to Etta. For you, she said, then ran off to feed the cat. Etta unfolded it slowly. Inside was a simple note. Thank you for helping my dad smile again. I think this is our home now. Love, Mia. Etta stared at the paper for a long time. She'd received many letters in her life. Legal ones, business ones, farewells from long-gone relatives, but none hit her the way Mia's had. It wasn't just the handwriting. It was the truth in it. This little girl had seen what Etta had done for her father, and she saw it as a gift, not a transaction. That letter stayed tucked into Etta's Bible from that day forward, between the pages about sowing seeds and reaping joy. Because some gifts aren't bought. They're planted. It took time, but the town began to notice the change. The Mayfield farm was thriving again. Fences upright, crops in neat rows, the barn roof no longer sagging. At the market, people asked Liam questions instead of giving him side glances. He's the one working Etta's land, they'd whisper. Some even asked for advice. Others offered their own tools or spare seed. No one saw the full picture yet. They didn't know about the deed under the floorboard or the drawing on the fridge. But they saw something better. A man who worked with humility, a daughter who smiled with freedom, and a woman who'd opened her gates to more than just labor. Etta never confirmed or denied rumors. She let the work speak. And it did, row by row, season by season, until the valley looked different, brighter, like something had been reborn in the dirt. Months later, Etta placed a folded document in Liam's hands. Don't open it here, she said. Just read it with your daughter. That night, under the kitchen light, Liam opened the envelope. Inside was a will, and a handwritten letter. Etta had made it official. The field, the old tractor, and a small piece of the original land would be Liam's one day. Not for charity, she wrote, but because you proved the soil still knows good hands. Liam sat back in his chair, stunned. Mia leaned on his shoulder, reading the last line aloud. Grow something that will outlive us both. Tears welled up in Liam's eyes. Not just because of the gift, but because someone finally believed in him. Not as a project, not as a pity case, but as a man worthy of roots. For the first time in years, he didn't feel lost. He felt planted. Seasons passed. Crops grew. Mia's drawings covered the fridge. The porch had 3 rocking chairs now, worn from long talks and quiet evenings. The town slowly stopped calling it Mayfield's Place, and began calling it the Carver Farm. Etta never corrected them. She just smiled beneath her wide-brim hat and watched the fields stretch into the horizon. Liam never chased wealth. He didn't need to. He had something richer. Purpose, peace, and a daughter who ran barefoot through a valley he once couldn't afford to dream about. And Etta, though quieter now, had something she'd never expected. A family that didn't come by blood, but by choice. In a world that often forgets kindness, a simple act, stopping to fix a fence, had rewritten all their futures. Not because of luck, but because sometimes, when you give without expecting, life returns it in acres.